right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our third, or considering we got cut off early last week, our second and a half installment of All the Right Movies. Tonight it is Bull Durham, and why not? It's baseball season, and we tried to slide in a little hockey last week when the Stanley Cup ended. Now we're in the dog days. The NBA and NHL championships are over. They're playing soccer tournaments that aren't World Cup. Even the football is 2 months away. Kickoff for both college and pros, and heck, no one's really getting into the baseball pennant races here for probably another month. So it's the dog days, and I got a suggestion that maybe we should have done The Sandlot. You're not wrong, being 4th of July week and all that, but I feel like Bull Durham is the perfect movie that just captures the dog days of baseball. This is a movie where nothing's really going on. The season starts and I think they're like 8-16. There's no big game at the end. It's just people get cut and people get promoted, and the people they're telling the stories about are done. You're going to start with me alone tonight. Greg from Five Heart will be joining us when he gets home, and I don't know what to expect there. There's something wrong with him. He's talking about he's got to cut his stitches out. He'll still be booted. He won't have a chance to change. I'm just wondering, or is this going to be some bleeding circus geek with no shirt on and some tank top with blood and torn stitches? I don't know what we're getting, but Greg will be here, and so let's hope to hell he doesn't gross us all out. So let's introduce Bull Durham. Let's get going. Came out in 1988. Ron Shelton was the director, and just to cut in right away, this is a movie with a couple of Mount Rushmore type sports movie guys. Ron Shelton directed Bull Durham in 88, White Men Can't Jump in 92, and my personal favorite, Tin Cup in 1996. He also did Cobb. I feel like if he goes up on Rushmore, it's going to be three heads. I don't know that Cobb really belongs with that group. And then you have Kevin Costner coming in, and he hits the ball out of the park in 4 athlete performances as a bicyclist in American Flyers. It's a little more obscure. It came out right after he was in Silverado, but if you get a chance to watch it, American Flyers bangs. It's got a couple glaring plot holes. You don't care. The race footage is awesome. And then he did Bull Durham, and then Tin Cup, and then For Love of the Game. And then once he was done being an athlete, he played an NFL GM in Draft Day and a cross-country coach in McFarland, USA. So these are two guys that, when it comes to sports movies, when you're trying to go who's the greatest sports movie director or actor, we won't battle about that tonight, but they're both in the discussion. Let's put it that way. Hey, jump in the comments if you're in. I haven't checked them yet. And just, and throw in some of your memories about Bull Durham if you have them, if it doesn't announce your age too badly like it does mine. One thing, before we get into the plot, let's get into the plot first. It's a pretty simple plot. You got a minor league team. They're bringing up their phenom pitcher, Ebby Calvin Nuke Lelouch. Everybody's thinking about Tim Robbins' pitching ability. We'll get to that. We're going to definitely pick on him. We're not going to do that right away. So anyway, at this point, they're a Braves franchise. I believe that's who had him as a single A back then. They eventually became a triple A for the Braves. And then I believe now they're a triple A farm team for the Devil Rays. So that's the thing, you just got to love your minor league teams if you're a town, because a lot of them will switch around. We'll talk about this because this happens in the movie. When I lived in Asheville, North Carolina, they were a double A Orioles franchise when we moved there, and they were a single A Rangers franchise when we left, and we only lived there 5 years. So your teams tend to bounce around a little. And anyway, so they call up Ebby Calvin Nuke Lelouch to this horrible team, and he's an absolute flake. And they decide they need a catcher to mentor him, so they bring in Crash Davis, played by Costner, and he is the guy going for, I believe, the minor league career home run record. and as he even points out in the movie, not exactly something to be proud of. He's 32 years old. He's in single A. And as the manager points out when they sign him, and he's, pissed off about getting dropped down, and basically his job's just to watch over this flake. Now, one thing is, here's one kind of funny hole in it. When they made this movie, Costner's 33, and I think he's 32 in the movie, so he's built exactly for that role. Now, Ebby Calvin Nuke Lelouch, played by Robbins, I'm assuming since he's going to single A, he didn't pitch in college, and he seems like a bit too much of an idiot to have gone to college. And the problem with that is he's probably 18, 19 years old, coming straight from high school, and Tim Robbins was 30. He doesn't look anything like a high schooler, let alone even somebody, in their like 22 coming there out of college. So that you just kind of have to grin and bear that and roll with it. And so it just basically becomes a bunch of comedy scenes where here's Crash trying to teach Newt, how to have a ball player's mindset, not be just a total flipping flake. And he, and it's a losing battle for him at times. And then they run into Annie Savoy, played by Susan Sarandon. Susan Sarandon is a ballpark Annie. It's funny they named her Annie Savoy, because I don't know if it's still the parlance. Back then, a ballpark Annie was a baseball groupie, just trying to get with the players. And so they named her Annie intentionally, since baseball Annie, ballpark Annie. And Annie likes to pick one player on that team every year and basically just sleep with him during the season, try and impart a little life's wisdom. And boy, does she have a lot of that. And then she runs into Crash, who's, you can tell, kind of hits her in a way that she's not quite been challenged with before, especially when she's like she brings them both over to her house, lets them know that it's going to be a coin flip between those two, between who she's going to sleep with all season. And the funny thing is, Crash isn't having it. He's, hey, why do you get to choose? And she's like, wait, the hell are you talking about? Look at me. And he's like, why don't I get to choose? Why doesn't he get to choose? This is bullshit. And gets up and basically walks out, and then delivers the speech, which we'll talk about later. And so here they both are trying to turn Nuke into a grown up, and they're butting heads along the way. And eventually, she's having these feelings for Crash. I think she calls they're in bed at one point, and she calls Nuke Crash, and Nuke's not having it. And he's like, you called me Crash. No, it's like, it was a mistake. It's like, no, you called me Crash. You're thinking of him while you're having sex with me. And she finally thinks about it and just delivers the great comeback. Well, would you rather that I was here having sex with him, calling him by your name, or having sex with you, calling you by his name? You know what? You got a point there. And so, yeah, this goes on and on and on for the summer. And then finally Newt gets the call up, and probably some people blocked it from their minds, but then here they are at the end of the movie. The same way Crash was introduced is you see him coming into the manager's office, and you realize, hey, Newt's gotten called up to the majors. There's no more use for Crash. And sure enough, he's gone. He toddles around a little, then comes back to Annie, and they live happily ever after. Maybe in Visalia the next year, where there might be a manager's job opening up for Crash. So anyway, that's basically your plot. And while we're waiting for Greg, I want to skip ahead. One thing that I want to do, if the movie, the actors are truly good enough, I want to say, hey, did this thing get ignored at the Oscars because it was a sports movie? Because I believe, tell you what, we'll have a little quiz. If you can be honest and not Google, name the only three sports movies that have ever won a best picture Oscar, and we'll check that out. Before we do this, let's check some comments real quick, see who's here with us tonight. Tiger Shark Diver saw my Warren Sapp sucking oxygen poster. Baby, that thing was framed, I think, within a few weeks of that game. Somebody got me, or maybe it was next Christmas. Maybe it was next Christmas I got that. but yeah, but thanks for noticing. Let's see. Our ex-coach sucks. What up, everyone from Aaron Kane. Highlander again. I asked for, hey, who's talk about Bull Durham? He's like, I saw it, but remember nothing about it. Perfect timing. I mentioned American Flyers. There we go. HBO absolutely used to play American Flyers every third hour through the late 80s. Fantastic. And yep, Minnie Hunt is here. And yes, Susan Sarandon she's like the Cougar groupie. She's an old, not like grandma old, but she's an old, she's, probably, I got the feeling like late 30s, maybe, but for a minor leaguer, that might as well be someone's grandma, probably. Oh, there we go. Jason Reeves, American Flyers, Ray Don Chong. Yes, breasticle flesh, how classy. But yes, Ray Don Chong. I loved her too. Let's see. Uh-oh, is baseball a real sport? Well, you'll get a kick out of this. In my top 50 sports movies columns, one of the things I will do is I'll do a little thing before I review the movie, and I'll use a bunch of different categories there. One of them is not quite a sport. So stuff like Rounders, Color of Money, the pool, did auto racing make it in? Keep reading and find out. I'm going to try and come out with a few more of those this summer. But yeah, baseball's a real sport. There is more standing around than most, but yeah, we got to call it a sport. Fighting words. Baseball is the number one sport. They should allow enhancement drugs that I might watch. So I think Minnie's saying that the steroid era was her kind of time. 70 something home runs and let rip. And here's the thing about the steroid era people don't realize. It wasn't weighted too hard for the batters. There was a scout who did, anonymous interview after they finally shut it all down, and he said, well, the things to watch for next season aren't just guys who hit 53 homers dropping back down to 15. He goes, watch for a lot of fastballs to go from 95 back down to 89 miles an hour. Steroids helped everybody. So I have mixed feelings about the records, but I figure since most everybody in sight was juicing, on the mound and at the plate, might as well. Let's see. Trivia. Susan Sarandon dove so deeply into a role as a sweaty minor league baseball slewer that all of the sets had to be burned to eliminate the smell. What's funny is that as sweaty as they had to work hard to make these guys sweaty because they filmed it. They filmed it all on location at like ballparks in the Sally League in North Carolina and around that area. And they did it in November. So it wasn't exactly blazing hot then. Let's see. Oh, now more Susan Sarandon abuse. Tim was stained permanently, so they had to get married. And this was the set where they actually met. So there is that. So Sarandon's character was a stalker then. Interesting. Not really. Because stalking kind of gives the impression, hey, you're sneaking around, showing up where you shouldn't. Her character's just straight up. I'm coming for you. Let's go. Let's get it on. So anyway, let's talk a little about the Oscars, because I think this one had Oscar potential that got left on the table. So let me bring up the winners from, it would be the 1989 Oscars. This came out in 1988. And let's see, let's start with Best Actor, because I thought Kevin Costner, he put on a hell of a performance as a world-weary baseball player. Now, let's see, was there room for him in the top five? Okay, the winner was Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man. Okay, I don't think Costner's taking one away from Hoffman there. The others are Gene Hackman, Mississippi Burning, Tom Hanks in Big, Edward James Olmos in Stand and Deliver, which my personal favorite there. And then Max von Sydow, who I like, in Pelly the Conqueror. Having not seen Pelly the Conqueror and having seen like basically no interest in Pelly the Conqueror since in 1988, online or anywhere, I couldn't even, hey, no one's gone this month on Netflix. Pelly the Conqueror. I give Kevin Costner Max von Sydow's spot for Best Actor. Make fun if you will. I don't care about that. Now, Susan Sarandon, absolutely, I thought deserved a nod as Best Actress. But again, here's kind of a murderer's road. Jodie Foster wins for The Accused. And then you have Glenn Close for Dangerous Liaisons, Melanie Griffith in Working Girl, Meryl Streep in A Cry in the Dark, and Sigourney Weaver in Gorillas in the Mist. And those aren't all necessarily box office smashes, but that's a murderer's row for me, except the one that did kill at the box office. I never found Melanie Griffith to be that great of an actress. I mean, seems like a nice person, and Antonio Banderas obviously loves her, but at the very least, I'm sliding Susan Sarandon into Melanie Griffith's spot there. Best picture. Let's see, the best director that year, because Ron Shelton, he deserved. If he didn't deserve it for this, he deserved it for Tin Cup. I'll die fighting for Tin Cup. That's one of my top five sports movies of all time, and I've made a list of 50. Make a list of 20, it turns into a list of 50 really quick. But the directors were Barry Levinson for Rain Man, Charles Crichton for A Fish Called Wanda, Martin Scorsese, Last Temptation of Christ, Alan Parker, Mississippi Burning, and Mike Nichols for Working Girl. Barry Levinson won for Rain Man. That was Rain Man's year. But easily Ron Shelton belongs in that crowd. I'm probably going to, sorry, Working Girl, I'm going to bounce Mike Nichols. And then Best Picture, usually that matches, let's see, Rain Man won. And then the other nominees were Accidental Tourist, Dangerous Liaisons, Mississippi Burning, and Working Girl. I'd probably, Accidental Tourist was a bore. Working Girl, I've already kicked it out once. I'm not going to take Bull Durham over Rain Man. I'm going to call that a close loss, but it's definitely making in there too. So I feel like Bull Durham had some potential for Best Picture and Best Actor and Best Actress. We could probably make a case for Tim Robbins as Best Actor, because Tim Robbins is a pretty easygoing, intelligent guy, and he kills it as Newt, just being an absolute basket case. So let's see. Did anybody have the? Nobody has it. Okay, I believe the three Best Picture sports films winners are Rocky. Oh God, the horrible one. I didn't like it. Is the one where Hilary Swank was a boxer and got killed with Clint Eastwood. I wasn't a fan of that. And then Chariots of Fire won, and I thought that was very well deserved. I thought that it was British. I thought it was going to put me to sleep when it came out. I can still watch it, and I still get pumped. I just love the Olympics too, so that helps. Let's see, Tin Cup. Okay, many asked, was Tin Cup before or after Bull Durham, and Bull Durham was first. That was Shelton's first. It was Bull Durham was 88, White Men 92, and then Tin Cup in 96. And $1 Million Baby, yes, Jason and Manny are on that. $1 Million Baby. I wasn't a fan. It was just slow for me. Some people loved it. Hey, to each his own. Thank you, Jason. Tin Cup is priceless. Raging Bull was good. One of our categories we use here is like the rewatchability of the movie. Raging Bull was good, but it's kind of up there with like Mystic River for me, a fantastic movie that I don't get the urge to watch over and over. I might go back to them every 5 to 10 years, but yeah, that they don't kick the rewatchable button for me. Raging Bull. Yeah, Minnie Hunt, she makes a point. This was something I was going to bring up just in trivia or hot takes or whatever. This really was the kickoff for Kevin Costner, Susan Sarandon, and absolutely Tim Robbins. Costner had done, he'd gotten on the map in Silverado, and I think The Untouchables might have come right before this. And, and that was a star-making performance. But this one, in that one, he's sharing the screen with some pretty talented folks. This one he is the center of this movie. He's its heart and driving soul. And this was the one that just made him a leading man, probably to this day, if he still wants to be. He and Tom Cruise are two of the actors. Harrison Ford would be another one, where a lot of people have their window, like they have a run of like 4 to 6, 7 years, something like that. Then you get guys like Costner who just, who are just on top. It seems like forever. Tom Cruise, same story. Let's see. Okay, Jason, I'm not going to put that one up there. Nope. Tell you what, enough comments for now. let's start by getting into. I'm going to skip because I really want Greg in here when we start talking about favorite scenes and favorite lines. So yeah, let's skip around a little. Little more info on the movie. It did actually get one Oscar nomination for Best Original Screenplay. It didn't win, but dang, it should have. I really thought it should have. That was for just something that came out. And here's something diving into trivia again. You know who helped work with Ron Shelton on the story idea at the beginning was Kurt Russell, and Kurt Russell was originally supposed to be Crash Davis, and then Costner ended up getting it. Kurt Russell sounds like a great guy. He seems like one of those like just alpha male types. He's always probably running around in a bomber jacket with a beer in his hand or something. And it just seems like, good hang. And this little bit, just made me think of that because he helps adapt the screenplay, or helps a little with, I think, the idea. I don't know how much of the writing he helped with. The movie kills, and he was like the first one up for the role apparently, and he doesn't get it. And he sees it and he says he just loves it. It's one of the best things he's ever seen, and writes letters to Costner and Shelton to that effect about how much he loved the movie and how much he loved Costner's performance. So, that's a good guy. In Hollywood, place where there's a little jealousy, little snark going on. And here's the guy that's just like, I didn't get it. And you know what? The right people did. I hear Woody Harrelson's that type of guy where he's actually turn down roles to tell people, I think this person would be better than me in this role. Like in True Detective season 1, he was originally going to have McConaughey's role, and he went to the producers and said, let me play this guy. Matt McConaughey is much better suited for that role. Great decision for True Detective. So let's see. Oscar nominated for Best Original Screenplay, Roger Ebert. I'm going to start getting into Roger Ebert and Rotten Tomatoes because I think we all love that. Roger Ebert, 3.5 stars. Loved it. Roger likes the story. This is a good story. This isn't your typical, hey, big game at the end. But 3.5 stars, and then 97% from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes. So critics universally loved this. The audience reaction is only 84%. I figure that's probably half who don't really like baseball but got dragged to it. Sorry, Highlander. And then here's okay. I'm going to say it now. I'll let Greg start yelling at me when he gets here. Here's my take on Bull Durham. In my top 50, I'm going to tell you right now, it's not in the top 10. It's probably in the high 20s or low 30s. And 2 reasons. One, there is no like big moment at the end or anything like that, and that really gets you emotionally invested in the game itself or whatever, if it's been done properly. And also, guys, let me take a swig of water while my throat gets dry and I get ready for a couple people to get mad at me maybe. Bull Durham's more of a chick flick than a sports movie. There, I said it. Sorry about that. But it really is. It's a lot of chick flick stuff in here, and the part of Annie Savoy. Not a bad thing. Doesn't make it a bad thing, but I'm just saying, that there's not a lot of baseball being played on the field either. I think there's a montage when they're stinking the place up. Kind of like in Necessary Roughness 2 weeks ago. We talked about their montage, and that was them just out there tripping all over each other. And that's kind of what the montages are here in Bull Durham. And so, that's about it. And then, but you've got a lot just of the Annie, Crash, Nuke love triangle going on. It all comes together for me in one scene, though, and we'll get to that when we do favorite scenes. It was box office. It was number 18 for the year in 1988. It made $51 million almost on a budget of 8.7. And I'll jump into the trivia here a little bit. One of the things I read was that it was a tough sell for the studio. They did not think baseball movies were a winner. And he really had to talk them into it. Most of the actors took pay below their normal levels to squeeze it in under the budget. And then it becomes, a number 18 doesn't sound like a hit, but back then, 20, your top, you probably knew the top 30 or 40 at the box office just because we're getting into that cable area pretty solid, but you're still wanting to see everything at the theater first. So it makes the 51 million, and then a bunch of baseball movies in a row rip off, like they rip off like 8 Men Out, Field of Dreams. I think they're Major League. There's a couple more after that, and there's one right before this that is going to be in my top 10. And the only place I know you can find it right now is I don't even know if you can buy it on Amazon, but it's full length available on YouTube. I don't know about this summer, but we'll be doing it. And it's called Long Gone. It was a made for HBO 1987 movie with NCIS guy, William Peterson was in it, and a very young Dermot Mulroney, Henry Gibson, the leader of the Nazis and the Blue Brothers, and Teller, the quiet one of Penn and Teller, who talks in this for the team's owners, and just a wonderful movie about minor league baseball. I like it better than Bull Durham just because it's there. You got your romance in there. You've got a young Virginia Madsen in there, but it really does grab you by the baseball heartstrings, and it's just one of the funniest movies I've ever watched in my life. William Peterson is disgusting and hilarious. So if you have a chance and want to do homework, Long Gone 1987 on YouTube for free, the full like hour and 50 minutes. So that's that. Let's talk about it. Yeah, I'm going to skip around into some of the other categories here. Let's talk about comedy. This is a funny movie. So we're not talking, you've got straight classic comedy, good stuff. Now let's talk about unintentional comedy and a discussion that those who are fans are probably chomping at the bit about a little. And that's Tim Robbins there wearing the garter, having his nightmare at a jock and pitching in a jock and a garter as Nuke LaLoosh. And brother, when I tell you that man does not throw 102 miles an hour or whatever the hell he's supposed to be throwing, I'm not kidding. Oh God, anybody that knows what I'm talking about, feel free to put your comments in the description. But Ebby Calvin, Nuke LaLoosh, my God, who's supposed to be throwing, 102. I don't know if he could throw 50. That ball just like ballooned out of his arm. Tim Robbins, actually swore that, he could throw a lot harder, but he hurt his arm. I'm like, that doesn't look like an injured arm. That just looks like a guy that didn't play much baseball. Wonderful actor, kills the role. The pitching though, my God, it was tough. It was very tough. Oh geez, let's see. What the hell happened to jock straps? Well, in the from the category of I'm going to tell you more than you want to know, I never wore one. I did not wear a cup. I did not wear it in football. I did not wear it in hockey. I sure as hell didn't wear it when I was playing baseball. I guess I just trusted myself to protect them when I had to. But every time I tried to run with one of those things on, and I found out as I've gotten older and confessed that little secret, that's not just my thing. That appears to be that appears to be something that I wasn't alone in doing. Those that do probably said, "My God, you stupid lucky bastard." I'm not going to argue with you. Definitely stupid. And I was lucky. So let's see. There's your unintentional comedy. Let's talk about the sports quality. You don't get to see a lot of it because, like I said, they're running around in baseball uniforms a lot, but there's not a lot of game action except, batter pitcher, where either Crash is going to hit one out, adding on to the pile of home runs for his record, or Nuke's going to be pitching. Crash is going to be shaking him off. We'll talk about that here in a bit. But they actually did have quality players out there. Ron Shilton, I think, rounded up about a dozen minor leaguers to, just play ball players on the field, and then found 40 or 50 other guys who, played at levels lower than that. And I'm thinking, man, if you can roll out a baseball movie and you've got, 50, 60 guys who played at high school level or above, I think you're going to look just fine on camera. You'll in a movie, you'll look like you know what you're doing. So the sports quality, even though probably underused, was pretty good. the music was something else. The music was very good, but it wasn't, Rocky theme, blood pumping, adrenaline, type of anthem music. It was just kind of old, oldies, little country, little rock. Uh, there's the time where they're on the bus and you gets a guitar which you can't play and starts singing a song even though he can't sing, and it's shit. It was my favorite song in the Commitments. But he starts singing the line, women, about how women get weary, except he says women get woolly. So Crash gets pissed and takes the guitar away from him. That's stupid. Women don't get woolly. Women get weary, dumbass, and just lets him have it. But it's a good old rock kind of country soundtrack. It's perfect for back roads on the minor league bus, which is just a miserable way to travel over and over again. That's how you know someone loved baseball, if they stayed in the minors as long as they could. And as the manager said to Crash, he's like, here's Crash bitching and moaning when he finds out he's signing with this team. And the manager, he goes, well, what the hell do I get? He goes, well, you get to keep playing baseball and getting paid a little for it. And how many people wouldn't go play baseball and get paid like shit as long as they could because it's fun. And and crappy hotels and being packed on buses with other smelly guys are part of the deal, then it's part of the deal. And then, one of the categories is like, what are the best adrenaline scenes? This one doesn't really have one. This is, there's, even when Crash breaks his record near the end of the movie, it's still, it's just kind of matter of fact and just another thing happening on the road for him. It's not like you're cheering in the theater for him because, like he said, that's a dubious record at best. There's Newt gets some strikeouts, but that's usually just the product of listening to Crash, because Crash probably told somebody, here comes the fastball, and when you believe that, he's shaking me off. It's a fastball, and when you speak of me, speak well. So yeah. Tell you what, let's go. And like I said, we had montages. I want to save the rewatchable parts for later. Greg should be here about any time. So let's just start into my nominees for the best scenes. And this was one of those where I usually like to try and just pick 5 or 6, but there's just so much going on. It's so funny. The first time we see him is the first game, and you're introduced to the young star, Ebby Calvin Nucleluche, as he's having sex on the training table with the daughter of the man who donated the scoreboard. Because the manager, Skip, goes walking in there, and he's probably about 40 years old. He's 40 years old. He looks about 10, 15 years older, just life in the minor leagues. And he starts barking at her. Now, if you can't stay out of here, I'm going to have to ban you from the stadium. And she's this cute young blonde. And she goes, Skip, you can't ban me from the stadium because my dad donated that scoreboard. So I don't think he'd like hearing you did that. And he just goes, oh, no, we need a goddamn scoreboard. We can't score anyway. And then he always did this wonderful thing. He did it like 2 or 3 times in the movie. The manager, and God, what was his? I know I wrote down his name here. Give me just a sec. Trey Wilson. Trey Wilson is a Hall of Fame cusser. I love cursing. It's one of the few things I'm fucking good at. And Trey Wilson has this thing where you can see his when he gets frustrated and it builds up, then he'll sit there and he'll walk away and just start cursing under his breath really loudly. You just hear him turning and go, God damn motherfucking son of a bitch, fat shit, God fuck damn it. It's just hysterical. He does it there when Millie, Millie the young blonde, just tells him to stuff it when he threatens to kick her out of the ballpark. Let's see, you get the first game, and there he is on the mound and just throwing all over the place, 100 miles an hour into the screen. He drills the bull at one point, but then he strikes a couple guys out. And afterwards, you see they're sitting in the office, and it's Robert Wool, who this role is it's called Lightning in a Bottle. Robert Wool kills it. He's funny as the assistant coach, Larry Hockett. And he turns this into like, I don't know, what, 10 years with the series Arliss on HBO, where he just plays a smart ass sports agent. Arliss was not that good. It didn't deserve to hang around for 10 years. And he probably didn't deserve a 10-year series with him as the star of it, but it happened because he was really funny in Bull Durham. But yeah, they're sitting in there, and he's going like, so the manager's like, well, he walked 18, and he goes, a new league record, and he goes, struck out 18 too, another new league record. And so you get to meet that. Here's Evie. It's like, he's having sex and he's supposed to be out warming up. And he just gets a smart ass look on his face. He goes, Skip, I am warm. Well, yeah, we know you are, Ebby. We know you are. The next big scene I like is when you meet Crash, where he comes in and he's like, he goes into the manager's office and goes, what the fuck am I doing? And, an A-ball, and is told, yep, your job's basically, you were literally getting to hang around at 32 years old in Class A, where most of the players the oldest ones are probably 21 or 22, because we need somebody to hold this rookie's hand, and or as Crash puts it, hold his dick. And he is not happy. And a couple of years after Danny Glover makes it famous in Lethal Weapon, the line "I'm too old for this shit" is immortalized by Crash Davis, and he's just like, "Fuck this, I quit." Grabs his bag, storms out of the manager's office, turns around, sticks his head back in. What time's the game tonight? 7:00. Warm-up's at 6. And then just turns around and stomps off again without another word. He's not happy at all with the babysitting assignment. Now the next scene is a classic bar scene. The bar is actually, they filmed a lot of this on location. The bar was actually in Raleigh, North Carolina, not Durham. But that's where the Crash goes walking in. Nuke's out there doing this weird dance, and with about 5 different girls. And I think Sarandon asked someone asked who's he dancing with, and she's like, all of them, I think. And funny little trivia there. Paula Abdul was hired to come out for a day and teach Tim Robbins his goofy dance moves. Apparently she thought she was going to get promised like a throwaway line in the movie, and went up afterwards and like wanted to know from Ron Shelton, all right, where did I say my line? And Ron Shelton's like, you don't have any lines. And she was like, no, I was promised like 2 lines. And he's like, not for me, you weren't. And she apparently just threw a shit fit for the ages, screaming, stormed out, just absolutely infuriated. So there you go. Paula Abdul throws rumor has it, throws an absolute shit fit because she doesn't get a speaking part in the movie. But so then we also, and let me go back to the ballpark. In the originally, you get to see Max Patkin. I don't know if anybody in the group here ever got to see Max Patkin perform. I'm sure there's some stuff on YouTube. Go watch it. It probably won't do the justice of being there. It was this old man that wore this, like baggy uniform, like from the 20s or 30s or something, had all these different teams, patches and logos on it, had a big hat with more patches, Big Bill, went around backwards. He was just this, seemed like he was an old guy for about at least 25 years. Because I first saw him in Asheville, North Carolina, performing there. He mostly went to minor league parks, and he would just perform between innings, dance, get spit water in the air. I can't do it justice. Max Patkin just made you happy. In a stroke of genius, and in this bar scene, Max Patkin comes to the bar, and being that Crash has been in the minors for 12 years, of course they're old friends. And even Max Patkin, just being Max Patkin, dressed normally in a bar, people are just sitting in the theater and smiling. Max Patkin just made you happy, to be alive and just be around baseball. So this is the one where Costner spots Nuke. Annie asks Costner to dance. He goes, I don't dance, and she goes, well, my God, I feel so bad for you. And then so Nuke asks her to dance. So then Costner comes in, tries to steal her from Nuke to pick a fight, and you have the famous scene where they go out back, and Nuke's just saying all the hilarious, like, tough talk of the 80s. let's dance and all, all this shit, like picking the fight. And that's where, and let's say he's saying, hey, I don't punch any man first. And Costner goes, well, how about a bet then? What's the bet? And he goes, I bet you can't hit me with a baseball. And he's like 20 feet away. And he goes, are you kidding, man? Hey, here's Greg. Greg, let me finish up this for you. You like playing the drums over there? There we go. Maybe. Anyway, he says, go ahead and hit me. And Nuke's going, man, I'd kill you. And he goes, nah. He goes, from what I heard, you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a fucking boat. And so he's like, he fires away. He goes, what are you talking about? And misses him by 5 feet, throws it through the glass window on a door, and Costner just goes ball four. Then he comes over to punch him. Costner lays him out, and there you go. All right, we got Greg here. Sounds like he's rowing the boat in from the ocean there. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing great, Andy. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. Those texts you were sending me, I was mentioning a little bit about that. I was half expecting like an open wound, like maybe no shirt or a bloody tank top. And you were talking like you wouldn't be able to dress. You'll have a boot on. I didn't know if you're going to be wearing like a boot. I didn't know what the hell's going on. What's your physical condition tonight, Greg?
Well, I'm
fading. All right, we'll let Greg get it together here. Hold on, I'm taking a swig. Let's go ahead and check comments again while Greg tries to land the Enterprise here again. Let's see what we got. We're talking about oh man, a chick flick. Next week's movie will probably be The Notebook. Costner's kind of screwing up Yellowstone. And from what I hear, it's everybody's fault. I am waiting for Yellowstone to come back now. Oh, let me try and get Greg in over here. Or he got himself in. All right. Ooh, sounds a little better too.
Hey,
all right.
Thanks.
All right, let's hear all about your physical maladies here.
So, for those of you who were on the 5 Heart last week, you know that I lost a battle with a pole saw. And so I had stitches in my right index finger. I'm hesitating just putting the finger up to the camera. I don't want to gross people out or induce a graphic content warning. But yeah, so I'll show you the backside of it. Anyways, I have the stitches out, the brace out, and we're on the mend finally.
Well,
so
at least, you must have given the saw a good battle if you still got the finger.
Yeah.
It's at least it's stitches and not a
nub.
Yeah. But buddy of mine, Ariel, went on like a trip. I think it was to Puerto Rico, and she did a little deep sea diving, and she was coming up, and the ladder pinched the tip of her index finger, and literally just like sawed it off like from the nail on up. She just lost it, and there was really nothing you could do to cover it early on. And she sent me some pictures of that, and that would have gotten a graphic content warning. So yeah, I understand finger injuries. I'm glad you still got it.
Yeah. So what are we talking about tonight? Sorry I'm late, everybody.
No, so here's where we are.
Okay.
I was starting to tell you what, I've gotten down. I was just finishing up like the third scene in my list of my nominees for best scene. And you just rewatched this, correct?
Not just rewatched it, Andy. I watched it for the first time since it was probably on TV in the 80s or early 90s.
So probably a cable, early 90s cable watching.
Yeah, which is, edited for time and content. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot more content in there than I recalled.
Yeah, it holds up. Yeah, I was going to say, I hope you saw it I hope you saw it unedited this time.
So here's the crazy thing about that. When I, signed on or agreed or what, to join you here tonight, I started watching it that night on Prime Video, commercial free, included with Prime. And I watched at least half of it. Probably, I think I told you maybe I only had like half hour left, something like that. And I went the next day to go finish it. And this was Sunday night to Monday, so June 30th to July 1. And I went to go finish it. I had some downtime. I was actually at the dealership getting my exhaust system replaced on my vehicle, which was awesome. And I'm sitting down there, got my AirPods in, I'm ready to finish the movie, and it's not there. It's no longer on Prime Video. So I was like, okay, we're going to Google or we're going to IMDb. Where can I finish watching this movie?
Yeah.
Finish watching it for free, which is important, on Tubi.
Oh, okay.
Now, there were commercials, but, maybe 5 minutes worth of commercials throughout the entire latter half of the movie. So, yeah, I got to, like I said, watch it really for the first time all the way through in its intended version.
Okay. It was actually on Max, too.
I didn't know.
So anyway, you just watched it. What, if you had to pick, like, your 3 favorite scenes, what would they be?
And that's tough.
Start with one. I don't want to put you under too much pressure. To help me out.
I like the audition with Nuke and Crash in
at Annie's
living room, and how he's like, I've been playing this game. He's like, I'm not auditioning for you. I come to the conclusion that in what world did we ever buy Susan Sarandon as a leading lady?
Oh, really?
I'm not a fan. Kudos to her for taking whatever she had and turning it into a career.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So I like the audition. More or less, I like maybe less the audition, more Crash is like, I'm too old for this crap, In fact, I think he uses that iconic line from Buddy Cop, Mel Gibson, Danny Glover.
Oh, I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah, but
I talked about that. He used that when he was quitting the team at the very beginning.
Oh.
and then what time's the game? But yeah, is that what you're thinking of? Like, I'm too old for this shit?
Yeah, but for whatever reason, I can't think of the movie franchise.
Oh, Lethal Weapon.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I said. That's what I said is like he does that probably just 3 years after Danny Glover unleashed the first time, getting too old for this shit. So perfect time. I didn't think you'd choose this one. While you're thinking of another scene, you like, it's time to read the speech from Crash.
Okay.
Because
please.
My favorite part of that was when she's like, well, I spend the season with, I pick one player and spend the season, and Crash like, why do you get to choose? Why don't I get to choose? Why didn't he get to choose? Which is, him. It's like, I'm not, but he's not some 21-year-old shithead that she's usually with. But she's like, he goes, after 12 years in the minor leagues, I don't try out.
Right.
Besides, I don't believe in quantum physics when it comes to matters of the heart. What do you believe in? And no one in the theater, I think, knew that this was about to hit. And this is what I thought made him, was the line in the movie that really boosted him into superstardom, was he goes, well, and again, NC-17, folks, but, well, I believe in the soul, the cock, the pussy, the small of a woman's back, the hanging curveball, high fiber, good scotch, that the novels of Susan Sontag are self-indulgent, overrated crap. I believe Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. Sidebar. 3 years later, he'd be starring in JFK and totally believing that Oswald didn't act alone. But I believe there ought to be a constitutional amendment outlawing AstroTurf and the designated hitter. I believe in the sweet spot, softcore pornography, open your presents Christmas morning rather than Christmas Eve. And I believe in long, slow, deep, soft, wet kisses that last 3 days. And that's when Sarandon, I think, does what became her tagline in that movie. Oh my!
Right.
She's just like instant in love. But yeah, that was the speech, and just the way he delivered it. And it is one of those things where you kind of hear the audience starting to laugh, but not wanting to miss any of it in the theater. And then when he finally kicks it out and she goes, oh my, the whole the theater just came down at that point. Everybody's just dying because they were like, where the hell did that come from?
Right. It's probably not as famous, but it has the flow and similar like Chevy Chase's rant in Christmas Vacation. When
Yeah.
he's talking about his boss and things like that. And again, similarly, one's I think in anger, and one is, again, the what's wrong, Clark, he gives his spiel, and then the crash speeches. Well, what do you, and again, rattles it off, very impassioned, less anger, maybe some, I don't want to say frustration, but definitely some explanation to it. He's very matter of fact.
But he's definitely pent up, and he sells it as, I'm just doing this off the top of my head. Because Crash likes to play it cool, and he can't play it cool anymore. He's had it. Yep. He's had it. Yep. I'm not competing with that. He's, in there with Nuke Lelouch. He's like, I'm not competing with that. So you two have a great fucking evening. I'm out of here. And then she has to ask him one, well, what do you believe in? The kind of like, she's being a little bit of a smart ass there, I think. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to tell you. So sit back and listen.
Yeah, get ready for it.
Yep. Here are a few others that I came up with, and then that was the tryout at Annie's. Perfect timing, because I'd just done 3 before that. That was number 4. I have the Crash and Annie fight where this is the one where, how to put this? This is the scene where I told people, here's the reason I think it's only like in the low 30s, high 20s on my top 50 sports movie list. I think we talked about it when we were texting or whatever, I said, there's no big end scene. It's like, if you want, for me, the bonus points are, I've gotten you to care about these characters so much. And now here are them fighting for their life in some sport, or God, in Jean-Claude Van Damme's case in Bloodsport, for his very life, damn it. And, but you need that at the end to where now you're sweating it out because you've been in that theater and you're emotionally invested with these guys.
Yeah,
you really care.
And I would say, what Bull Durham's missing is a climactic third act. I mean, right. it kind of, dare I say, it kind of whimpers out.
Yeah, it absolutely does, and I think that's intentional because they're going, well, this isn't the hero's journey. This is real life for some of these guys in the minors, and when it's over, they just get shown the door and probably what's an empty promise of a managing job next year, just to make them feel a little better on their way out. Because basically, it's like, once these guys are gone, unless you stumble into them into a bar, hey, what have you been doing the last few years? Yeah, working in a garage or something, probably. Who knows? Bartending, I'm guessing, a lot of the time. But now here's the thing, though, is I kind of made fun of it, called it the chick flick. But I love the scene where she comes storming over to his apartment because Nuke won't have sex with her.
Yeah,
which is hilarious because this is a horny gal. She loves her sex, and that's one of the things I liked about the performance. She loves her sex, and she's not apologizing to anybody about it. And not only that, this whole town's gonna see me screwing one of these players, or at least knowing I'm doing it, for the entire season. And then people are probably curious, which one's Annie going to pick this year? Because obviously this has been her life for a few years.
And her protege, Millie,
Yeah, oh, God. We talked about Millie, too. How you first meet Ebby, having sex with Millie on the training station. And then how and I said the manager, Trey Wilson, it's one of my favorite cussers of all time. The way he just gets pent up and frustrated, then stomps off and going, that goddamn son of a bitch, motherfucking. No one does it like him. I'm not doing him justice. But anyway, this scene is all of a sudden, these are suddenly very real people. It's like, sure, cougars that look like Susan Sarandon are having sex with minor league players. I guess that's not that far-fetched. But she comes over.
We saw that in a more recent movie. We saw that in Summer Catch.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember Summer Catch, and it was Wilmer Valderrama and Beverly D'Angelo.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. It was. They kind of stole that from Youngblood with the older gal. Yeah, coming to his room at night. So anyway,
sorry.
No, that's fine. This is where they finally become real people. They are, and you realize listening to them talk to each other, because they're kind of having it out for real this time. And these are two people that are either never really had a chance to, or too scared to be in a relationship. She avoids relationships by just picking that one guy every year. He's not looking for anything. It's obviously he hadn't had anything in a while, but he's not, but he doesn't want to emotionally invest in any way. and they knew from the start that they're in love with each other and spend the rest of the movie trying to avoid it. And this is where they're really having to face up to it. And she like finally tells him like, it's like, I love you. And he's like, what, go get out of here, go home. And she's like, no. And she's coming up to him and she goes, she like tells him, you're afraid of this. And he goes, yeah, maybe I am, but I still think you ought to leave. And then you're looking at these two in a whole new way. Now it's not so funny anymore. And you realize, hey, these are two really good people who are damaged in relationships for whatever reason, and now I care about them a little more. And that scene really made me do that, where this isn't fun. This wasn't fun and games anymore.
And also, that was the scene where Annie said to Crash, like, you told him basically to withhold. Said, I didn't say that. I said you honor and respect the streak.
Streak. Yeah, you don't change anything when you're on a streak, and then he hits her with, and you ought to know that. And she's like, and she's just, yeah, he's
because right at the beginning in her opening monologue, they're talking about, she's like, I'm not a real religious person. This is my church, and it shows the ball field, So you would think that when her stud of the year, is pitching as well as, and when she explains it, her whole purpose is to elevate the players, in her way to the next level, and certainly we see that as a success with Nuke, but yeah, like Crash is right on the money. He's like, you should know that, because you're, she
knows baseball.
Yeah.
There's one funny moment, like the first game he's at, and he strikes out, and they send the kid, the stadium kid, over with the note, and she's like, hey, read it to me. And Larry's like, hey, you need to, you're throwing your hips out too early or whatever. He goes, all right, here, give me that. And I watched for it this time because I thought I remembered it, and I did. He just writes on there, want to fuck sometime. And hey, send it back. I know what it means. And don't read that. And
right.
And then Millie he goes, he says he wants to make love to you. And she's like, oh my. And there's another, oh my.
It kind of became her calling card.
And then after that, I've got like the second game where, that's the Crash talking to himself, note from Annie. The third game they show was Crash and Nuke on the mound. And, and he gives up the pitch, and then, hey, hit the fucking bull. He gets a free steak. Right. But funny thing about the Bull, they built that for the movie, and it's still there today. I think I think it was in foul territory, and then in right field they had to redo the fencing. So there was one season, then they moved it over to left, but I believe that sign's still there. Let's see, and then you have the road trip, and I'd been talking some about the music in this. It's really good music, but it's not like sports movie music. It's just it's perfect, like kind of old rock, country, for just music that sounds great riding a packed bus with a bunch of sweaty, smelly guys. And that's when he starts trying. Try a Little Tenderness. I couldn't remember the title earlier. And instead of going, oh, she gets weary, here he is going, oh, she gets woolly, and he can't play and he can't sing. and then Crash just gets pissed. That's stupid. Women don't get woolly. I hate it when people get the fucking words wrong.
Right.
and then let me just run through these real quick, talk about them all. So we got the road trip. He tells his story about how he spent 20 days in the show, and that I never wanted to be a Major League Baseball player so much in my life. It's not that big a deal, but it just sounds wonderful the way he tells it. It's like, you never carry your own bags. People carry your shit around for you in the show. The ballparks are like cathedrals. It's like you just stay at the best hotels. He said, I was in the show for 21 days. It was the greatest 21 days of my life. And then they go flood the field. Hey, we got ourselves a goddamn natural disaster. And then I've got they get back home. He messes with the garters. I think maybe that's hit the bowl game. Here comes the deuce. All of that. And then I kind of like the finish, how this just all rolls into, it starts off with the greatest argument with an umpire yet, except for the one out there on TikTok with Earl Weaver, which is, you're just here to fuck us. Boom, out of here. And then they argue for like 8 more minutes. And Weaver keeps turning around, coming back. Well, this is the one, NC-17 again, folks, but that's the one where, that was a cocksucking call. And the ump like, you call me a cocksucker? No, I said it was a cocksucking call. And that's how stupid baseball arguments are. If you ever hear them mic'd up, they're just yelling really stupid crap at each other because I think it's just part of the thing. 162 games, the umps get pent up, the players get pent up, the managers get pent up. And when they lose it, it doesn't really matter what's coming out. They're just getting everything off their chest. And I think in a weird way, they all understand that, and I hate that guy, but underneath, it's like, I get that guy. But yeah, that's just the best way he finally delivers the bullet to get himself kicked out. It's like, you call me a cocksucker, you're out of here. And he just comes in just growling at, you're a cocksucker, you're a cocksucker, boom. And then you just see like the manager and the skipper and Larry, what the hell? And then they come running out all furious. And then you go back and there's Millie and Susan Sarandon hanging out in their, in their apartment or whatever, her house. And what I don't know, what Crash Davis used language that you just don't use here in the Southern League or something. And then, Millie's like, oh, I bet Crash called him a cocksucker.
Jason Reeves is right on the money with that comment as well. He knew exactly what line we were talking about there.
Well, and then we just roll out of the movie from there. It's like Mute's dad shows up. He's getting called up. He heads to the bar where Crash is hanging out with another old ball player, and then he pisses the shit out of Crash, and Crash goads him into another fight, and then he cracks. This time Mute cracks Crash with the left, and he's like, well, which hand hit me with? The left. Good. Never hit anybody with your pitching hand. He's getting the shit beat out of him, and he still can't help but impart wisdom. And then then very next day, Crash is out. He's cut. He's out the door. Goes Danny. They roll around in like our sports movie sex montage, and so they roll around in bed for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then Crash just drives off. Goes to sign with. Hold on here. Goes to sign with the Asheville Tourists. I lived in Asheville before I moved here. Here's that ballpark. They definitely bricked up the outside. It wasn't that clean, but yeah, it's old McCormick Field. I got an autograph from Bob Feller at McCormick Field when I was a kid. And here's a couple of views like from the outfield and then looking out. It just sits in Asheville. Asheville's in the middle of the Smokies there. There's the view from, the batter's box. And it looks like, if I'm looking right, that they put some bleachers up on the hill behind center field there, which definitely didn't exist when I was there. But anyway, he goes to Asheville. He sets the minor league home run record, and then comes back home and have a happy ending, which I assume is next year, them getting married and moving to Visalia, where he's now the manager. And Ron Shelton had a quote I found that said, well, it's like, we always thought of a way to do a sequel. Maybe he is managing in Visalia with her at his side. And he goes, and I tell you what, if they can survive Visalia, he goes, Visalia will test any marriage out there, which I thought was pretty good. What would you pick for your top scene? Would it be the tryout?
No, more I got thinking about it, that I respect and understand the rain out situation when they're on that road trip. You're like, but $100, bet you $100 we have a rain out. There's not any rain in the forecast for 3 weeks or whatever. So they go, he's like, I'm not paying that. But you know what, because we've all been in that grind where we just need a day off, and then not only that, but these guys are, especially some of the like Crash and Nuke, they're kind of in nicer slacks and jackets, and they flood the field, and then they go out and run and slide the bases. Yep, and that's, I mean, that's something we did, as high schoolers on legit rain delays and rain outs. So like I appreciate that kind of glimpse of back to like adolescence, but I think one of the is, I don't want to say hokey, but the mound visit when they get everybody together and they're solving all the problems, and then bench coach comes out and he's like, well, we can't break this up until we we get some of these things solved, and he's like a recipe or some type of candlestick. Yeah, that's right. It was the wedding gift. So again, that levity in what from the outside looking in is a very intense minute. Like, what the hell's going on with the pitcher mound? What's taking so long? Now we don't get to enjoy those moments because you're on the clock as far as your mound visits and things like that. So again, and oddly enough, as I'm watching the movie, the aesthetic of it, that 80s baseball where not every team had the button downs, and you had those god awful, uncomfortable polyester uniforms, but everybody had everybody pulled the pant legs up and you had honest to God stirrups. Yeah. That's the ball that I played when I was first started playing ball. So that aesthetic was especially pleasing. Because you don't see that anymore.
Right. Yeah, I really liked how the movie ended for those reasons. This is real life. Your minor league career doesn't end with like the Game 7 home run. It generally ends with a visit. Worse, visit mid-season to the manager's office, or probably just a call. Yeah, we don't need you back next year. And you just run out of teams that want you. So I'm going to pick for best scene. The one I like, that one. The one I'm going to go with is the bar scene. And not only does it do a great job of setting everybody up and showing what like an uber douche that Nuke is, but like I was telling him earlier right before you got on. Max Patkin's in it, and I don't know if you ever got to see Max Patkin do his thing at a minor league park. The last time I saw him was at an Omaha Royals game at Roosevelt.
Oh, okay.
Probably like early 80s maybe, and I saw him in Asheville once, and he was just wore this old. I was telling him, wore this old baggy uniform, big old hat on backwards, all kinds of different logos sewn on, and would just dance and sing and do some magic tricks and bring kids out and play with them. And when he was there, the game was actually secondary. Everybody just wanted the half inning to start, so Max would come running out, and then you had him in there just wearing a suit or wearing like a jacket and shirt, and you could just see him playing himself, just big smile on his face. He's just one of those guys that brought joy with him everywhere he went. So I'm going to give best scene to Max getting to play Max.
That's awesome.
Yep. Tell you what, let's check some comments.
You do that. I'm gonna go check on my dog because I think she's being an asshole.
Okay, you check on the asshole, and I will see what kind of horrifying things are being said here. When we did Necessary Roughness 2 weeks ago, a lot of Kathy Ireland comments. Minnie says she saw the new Costner movie. Great cinematography. Aaron, who was with me on our first drive 2 weeks ago, told me the same thing. I'm gonna have to go see it this week. And is it? Maybe I'll go down and find it, but I believe it's in like 2 parts or 3 parts or something like that. But I just love it. Costner's like, you know what? I've made all the money. I've made more money than I can spend. And you know what I like? Doing cowboy shit. So I'm going to make movies like Open Range and whatever the hell this one's called, Frontier or something maybe. And I'm going to do Yellowstone and be a grumpy ranch owner in a place where the ranches have shootouts. Let's see. Oh, Nothing Beats Rocky, perhaps the best movie of all time. You know what? There's still people that say it screwed Network out of a Best Picture Oscar. I still say, how many people go, hey, I wonder if Network's on tonight. Rocky, yes. Stallone selling Rocky all over Hollywood, but holding out until a studio finally agreeing to him as lead actor. Yeah, they wanted James Caan or Ryan. Oh fuck, I can't think of his name, but yeah, like had his he was like kind of a leading man in the 70s, good looking guy. Ryan O'Neal. So we talked about Yellowstone.
I was an asshole.
I love Taylor Sheridan. Me too. I remember taking my daughter to Hell or High Water when she was like 16 or 17, and she came out of there. Boy, I wasn't expecting that to be good. Let's see. We talked about what the hell happened to jock straps. Yeah, there's me. I was describing the fact that I never wore one, and I said this might be too much information. Minnie agreed. Sorry, Minnie. Jason, I was a catcher. The cup was just part of the uniform. Yeah, when we do Tin Cup, we'll definitely tell the story in the movie of how they gave him his nickname. The jockstrap stayed all the way through the Navy every time I had to swim. Yeah, you do you. I and the lad survived, so thumbs up. Seriously, every sixth grade boy used to be required to. Yeah, but the beauty of that was no one checked. Let's see, I haven't. Minnie's had it with jock straps. Let's see. Boy Scouts. Oh, Jason Reeves. If y'all haven't seen it, the series Brockmire with Hank Azaria is friggin' hilarious. It's funnier than that. It might be the funniest. Not that there's a lot of baseball series, but yeah, we might just have a Brockmire night and then we could kill 2 hours just with the best lines from that show. There we go. Great line. I got a Porsche 911 with a quadraphonic Blaupunk. You need a fucking curveball. Oh, well, Greg made it, even if Minnie didn't. Yeah, that flew so far it should have had a stewardess. Yeah, just some of the lines there. Yeah, I just like the one where he's like, yeah, he hit the bull, he gets a fucking steak. Simple things.
And it, it's Jason had this kind of comment. Said it's a moment of the veteran sharing stupid adulting stuff, knowledge, had a heavy military. I'll say this because I hadn't seen the movie all the way through soup to nuts since never. When Crash got called into the manager's office at the end, I thought it was going to be a little twist. I thought they were actually sending him up because who else could control, keep Nuke focused,
right?
And because all he kept Nuke on task, that's where you talk about the montages and things like that. There was a good montage of like when they hit their stride, as far as his pitching and things like that. So I don't know. Because I never saw the movie. Full all the way through until last week, but I like that. All right, if you're going to be stubborn and honoring, you don't want to throw an off-speed pitch, fastball right now. Okay,
yeah,
dong.
You believe that son of a bitch is shaking me off, throwing a 2-hit shutout. It's the deuce, and when you speak of me, speak well. I love that. You told him what I threw, didn't you? Yeah. Geez, something goes that far, it needs a passport.
Yeah. Some of those lessons you got to learn the hard way. So.
Well, and the little lessons too. There's the one where he's got his flip flops and they're just gross and haven't been washed. And he's just like, look at that. You've got scum on your shower shoes. It's like, no, it's great. If you go to the show and win 20 games, you can have scum on your shower shoes and you'll be a flake. It'll be cute, but here it's just disgusting. So you can see he's trying to cover. There's just so much that's wrong with him. He's just like, every time he kind of Costner just gets that look on his face like, Jesus Christ, this too, really?
Yeah.
Audie goes, let's see. Yeah, good. We're on for a Brockmire night.
Who had the most development as a character? Like, what character changed the most? You'd almost have to say it was Nuke, right?
I think Nuke. Yeah, Nuke would get that title. Yeah, Nuke at the end is like showing up. He's acting normal with his dad. He's even flipping Crash shit at the end because he says a word wrong. No, you stupid rookie. It was no, I was just kidding with you. It kind of cracks me up when you get mad.
Don't call me meat.
Yeah, stop calling me meat. I'm the one with a Porsche, and I'm the one with Annie. It's like, oh, and another thing, Annie's just using you dumbass. I love him muttering under his breath. I'm the one with a quadraphonic Blaupunk. Oh God. Okay, let's go through any particular lines that grab you.
Not that we haven't already kind of addressed.
What's that? Yeah, we've gone through some. Let's see. Yeah, here it is. Yeah, this son of a bitch is throwing a 2-hit shutout. He's shaking me off. You believe that shit, Charlie? Here comes the deuce. And when you speak of me, speak well. That one just always gets me. Oh, here we go. You guys, you lollygag the ball around the infield. You lollygag your way down to first. You lollygag in and out of the dugout. You know what that makes you? Larry, lollygaggers, lollygaggers. And then he turns around from the shower. God damn, son of a bitch, God fucking.
And I love how the assistant manager there he didn't know exactly where that was going. He's like, yo, you got to scare him,
Yeah.
So he's everybody in the shower, and I throws all the bats in there.
Right.
And then he goes into that rant. And yeah, he hits Larry like lollygaggers. I just didn't miss a beat,
Well, before you got in, I was talking about Robert Wool turned that single performance into more of a career than he ever deserved. He ended up getting like Arliss on HBO. And that friggin' show that wasn't that great was on for, I want to say 10 years doesn't feel like an exaggeration. It was on HBO. It felt like through the entire 90s. And I was like, why does this guy have his own show? And once that ended, he kind of went away. But God bless him, man. That's the guy. That's like he's Tim Legler. Fucking Robert Wool is Tim Legler. He comes up, wins the 3-point shootout with his performance in Bull Durham, has a little bit of an NBA career, and then goes on, and he's just been working in broadcasting ever since. And I was like, that guy was a hell of a lot great player for the Racers. But this guy is now like the voice of basketball on ESPN for 20 years. So that's Robert Wool to me. I'm going to give Robert Wool's performance the Tim Legler Award for turning a single performance into a career. Let's see. Yeah, we did the whole he gets to choose. Here's another one where like the guy sets off the bull and he's like, well, he really hit that shit out of that one, didn't he? And he's like, I held it like an egg because he told him, hold the ball gently.
You're squeezing it too much.
Yeah, and he scrambled the son of a bitch. Look at that. He hit the fucking bull. Guy gets a fake. And Crash, you having fun yet? Oh, yeah, having a blast. Good. God, that sucker teed off on that like he knew I was going to throw a fastball. He did know. How? I told him. That's what that made it even better. Not only did he tell the guy what pitch was coming, then he goes out and tells the pitcher that he told him. That was fantastic. That ball got out. There's a line like every little bit here about Crash giving shit to Nuke after he told somebody the pitch that was going, man, that ball got out of here in a hurry. I mean, anything travels that far ought to have a damn stewardess on it, don't you think? Yeah, relax. Yeah, here you go. Yeah, hey, here's what you were talking about. Relax, all right? Don't try to strike everybody out. Strikeouts are boring. Besides that, they're fascist. Throw some ground balls. It's more democratic. I love that. And he goes, what's this guy know anyway? Is he so great? How come he's been in the minors for 10 years? If he's so good, how come Annie wants me instead of him? Oh, and hey, and another thing, me, you don't know shit, all right? If you want to make it to the bigs, you'll listen to me. Annie only wants you so she can boss you around. Got it? So relax. Let's have some fun out here. And then turns out this game's fun, okay? Fun, goddammit. And don't hold the ball so hard, okay? It's an egg. Hold it like an egg. Let me just find one or two more. And Ebby at his interview, and he's like, I think he's supposed to be with the Phillies or something, maybe, or I'm not even sure. That maybe they're in Philadelphia. But he goes, a good friend of mine used to say, this is a very simple game. You throw the ball, you catch the ball, you hit the ball. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, sometimes it rains. Think about that for a while. He's kind of combined both the man and Crash for that quote. And yeah, and I told these guys earlier, loved at the time where she said Crash's name while she was having sex with Nuke, and he's just pouting like crazy. And,
like, would you rather have sex with me, have sex with you and say his name, or have sex with him and say your name?
Yeah, put that. She put that to bed pretty quick. And then Millie. Here's a fun story. You remember the guy, the dorky guy, who really into religion and ends up marrying Millie. Mm-hmm. Shelton wanted all guys who'd at least played a little, played some ball, so they'd look like they knew what they were doing out there. He saw him playing catch, I guess, and lost his shit because it became quickly apparent that this guy had never held a baseball in his life, let alone played any organized baseball. So Shelton was just like blowing up. You lied to me, and you're out of here. And he's like, no, I swear to God, give me some time. I can do it. Just let me night and day for a week here, and I'll be fine. And so he liked his acting enough where he kept him on, but he was like to the editors and the cameraman, under no circumstances are you to film this guy throwing a fucking baseball. and you never do. You never see him actually playing. He's just running around in that uniform. And then there was another thing. I told them about Kurt Russell, I guess, helped Ron Shelton work on developing the script initially, and he was supposed to be Crash. And
okay.
but then Costner ended up getting it, and Kurt Russell, like Shelton, they both played minor league ball, and apparently, like, Hollywood's a snarky, jealous type of place.
No.
Well, yeah, Kurt Russell, nice guy, saw it, wrote letters to both Costner and Shelton how much he loved the movie. It was his favorite baseball movie he'd ever seen, and those guys were fantastic, and he was glad Costner got the part, et cetera, et cetera. Just really, really genuine, nice thing to do. Little sports trivia while we got into the cast a little bit. Let's see. I thought I wrote this guy. I did. I wrote this guy's name down. You might have recognized. Remember the guy who starts off 0 for 16, wants the chicken bones rubbed on his bat, and then gets cut. And come on, Cup. I love how he goes like a few flares falling, and I'm right back on track. They're not wrong, because Crash talks about that later in the movie. Hey, one more flare a week, can of corn, and your 270 average becomes like 295. It's just a little bit of luck can really change it for you. Okay, the actor's name, David Niedorf. If you don't remember him, he was Everett Flatch in Hoosiers. He was the one who cut his shoulder. He was Dennis Hopper's son. That had the temper, and then he was also in Charlie Sheen's Platoon in the movie Platoon. So, nice little sports movie connection there. I always look for guys who belong in like the Sports Movie Hall of Fame. You have two kids from the Sandlot who are also both Mighty Ducks. The pitcher was original Mighty Duck, and then Benny the Jet was Luis in Mighty Mendoza, who couldn't stop in Mighty Ducks 2.
That's right.
Yeah, let's see. Tell you what, I took some notes. This is just I'm getting into trivia, and we'll jump headfirst into trivia here pretty quickly. This is where I just think everybody's full of shit, and a lot of this, their agents putting it out there so people think their clients are hot. Here are all the people that supposedly turned down the starring role in this. Nick Nolte, Jeff Bridges, and Don Johnson all supposedly turned down Crash Davis. The one that intrigues me there is Don Johnson. That I can see, because Johnson always struck me, pretty athletic-looking guy, and he can play worn out and smart ass. It's a different movie, but it wouldn't necessarily be a bad one. The ones for Annie, it's insane. Michelle Pfeiffer, Kim Basinger, Glenn Close. Michelle Pfeiffer auditioned for it, but they said she was too young. Carrie Fisher, Deborah Winger, both committed, then backed out. Kelly McGillis also. For Nuke, David Duchovny was considered for Nuke, and Charlie Sheen was offered it, but he was already getting ready for 8 Men Out, which was going to come out the next year. But then Charlie Sheen gets back in to present day baseball by becoming Rick Vaughn in Major League. The Wild Thing. Sybil Shepherd and Bruce Willis were apparently offered to do it, to be Nuke and Annie, or Crash and Annie, but couldn't get out of the shooting Moonlighting. And then let's see. Oh, and here's my favorite one. On Annie's mirror, there's a baseball card up in that mirror. It's Brian Snitker, who's now the manager of the Atlanta Braves. Back in 1987, when they probably would have been filming it, I went to his Wikipedia, and he had been with like the Anderson Braves from like 81 or 82 to 86 as a coach. And in 87, he was coaching with the Durham Bulls. So crazy that now you watch it today, and there's your Braves World Series champion manager from 2021. So
something that I learned, like truck drivers know that, the groupie for the truckers, the lot lizard, but apparently baseball's groupies are called Annies.
Yep. I said that before you came on.
Okay.
And that was why. No, that's great, because that is why they named her character Annie Savoy. Those groupies were called like baseball Annies. And
this is what I missed by not being on time.
That's all right. It's fun to hear again. And you know what they call them in hockey? Puck bunnies.
Oh yeah, yep.
All right.
I watched Letterkenny.
And I went through potential Oscars earlier. So the only category I jumped into some of our categories. We talked about comedy. Well, this is a comedy. It's filled with actual comedy. But then I went into how unintentional comedy, first place, second place, and every place after, is Tim Robbins trying to throw a baseball. That 102 miles an hour, that thing like something was coming out of his hand like it was going to have an arc to it. I mean, I don't know if he could hit 50. So
breathing through your eyelids.
Yeah, yeah, doing the Fernando Valenzuela. Talk about the sports quality. I'll just do a quick run back through those. That was actually pretty good. They just didn't have that much baseball in it. It was all pretty much pitcher, catcher, and then the montage of them fucking up like the Necessary Roughness one. But the sports quality was great because apparently Shelton went out, got a dozen minor leaguers, and then found another 40 to 50 who had played like lesser level than that. But I figure you got 60 guys out there who at least played high school baseball at a decent level. You're going to have a pretty good looking baseball movie. That's going to look good on screen as long as everybody looks like they know what they're doing and have thrown and caught a baseball before. Because when you do it forever, like for me, it's just nothing to go out throw a baseball. But boy, if somebody hasn't done it before and you see them trying, it's painful. It's painful to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just sometimes it's somebody like a wrestler, who never did like throwing a ball thing in his life. He just learned how to, squeeze people to death. But here, throw me that. And I'm like, oh God, don't throw anything ever again. We talked about the music. Adrenaline. One of my big things is the adrenaline scenes. Like it can be the Rocky type montage. Like the Rocky, that's the definition of the montage. That's for me, that's the first great, and the thing other montages are judged by. There aren't adrenaline scenes. There's no big moment in a game really. That when Costner hits a homer, he's just hitting the homer in the middle of a minor league game where people are just milling about in the stands. When Newt gets a strikeout, it's not like it's to win the game with the 1-run lead and the bases loaded. It's just like finally you listen to Crash. So here's a sports movie that's a really enjoyable sports movie and not really an adrenaline scene to speak of.
No, it's more of more about the relationships,
Right. But even then, now rewatchability, I always that's probably one of the most important to me. And my thing would be, what would you rate the rewatchability of this movie at? It's just pick a number. 38 minutes in, you sit down, Bull Durham's on. How likely is it that like the next hour and a half of your life you're stuck in front of that TV because you really can't get up?
I'm moving on personally.
You're moving on. Like I'm probably hanging in. If I get in, it's something funny, that like really funny, and they're not in the middle of the relationship stuff. I'm gonna give it either the 3 or the 4, somewhere in there. If it's not a straight 5 or anything, but there's a good chance that I might be. Let's put it this way. I gave it a rewatch while I was doing some note taking. Yeah, I was having to come on, you got to speed this up a little. I got to be somewhere. I got to go somewhere in like an hour here. And
things to do.
Yeah, and it was like Sunday night. I'm meeting some people later, and I'm like, no, I got to finish this. And I was going to do it in an hour, so I can't watch the whole movie straight through. But I'm watching all my favorite scenes straight through. Hell yes. Well, okay, let's start steering it home, and this is just the part where fun trivia about. I love fun trivia about movies, especially for sports movies. So I didn't grab every little nugget. I just tried to grab the stuff that was interesting to me, and then I pray that everybody else might hopefully find it a little interesting too. So here's a fun one for for you. The studio really wanted Anthony Michael Hall as
gosh,
not Tim Robbins. Way to fight, Rod Shelton. Good for you. Nothing against Anthony Michael Hall. Loved you in '61, but no, not as Newt.
Well, here's the thing with that though is Anthony Michael Hall. They probably, what do you think, filmed this movie? If this movie was released in '88, they probably filmed it in '87. Does that sound? Yeah. I mean, so he would have been 19 years old.
So he's perfect age.
I mean, that's true. I mean, I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's just from the same kid who. Just a couple years prior was scrawny in Breakfast Club. I just
But then he beefed up to be the quarterback, and that really, actually, it ended up kind of like getting some things right, but it was just such a bad movie. What was that one called? Johnny Be Good. But yeah, Anthony Michael Hall. He was getting pantsed in 16 Candles. But here's the thing: I talked about how when the movie came out, Costner was 33. and he's perfect playing a 32-year-old. He
Right.
still looks athletic as hell, but he's obviously older than everybody else. Well, everybody else except their 19-year-old Tim Robbins, who's actually 30. I'm like, no, he's not out of college. This is straight from high school to single A. And I just was like, wait, this kid's supposed to be 18, 19. Well, let's just enjoy the movie and not think
Right.
about it. Right. So let's see. Now, if you've ever, the line about you couldn't hit water if you fell out of a fucking boat, get your pencils. If you ever want to go on YouTube and laugh your ass off, if you've never seen this, they've got a recording of Tommy Lasorda being interviewed after, I think it had to do the Dodgers and the Padres, and Kirk Bavacqua and someone else on the Padres accused Tom Niedenfuer of the Dodgers of throwing at them intentionally, and that Tommy Lasorda ordered it. And this interview just starts off very calm, and then Tom just starts to get madder and madder. He's like, "And who the fuck is Kirk? Some guy hitting 217? He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a fucking boat? Is telling me?" He goes, "Throw at him." He goes, "Here's the thing, man. When I pitched, if I knew somebody like Kurt Bavacqua was on the other team, I'd send a goddamn limo to pick him up to make sure he didn't miss the game because I had 3 fucking outs." And he is just on fire by the end of it, just cussing out Bavacqua, this other guy on the Padres. It's probably about 7 or 8 minutes long, and you will just start giggling, and then you'll just be outright laughing at the end because it's just watching a man like in complete and slowly melting down.
Oh gosh.
But he said it was that interview is where he got the idea via Ron Shelton for the line, "You couldn't hit water if you fell out of a fucking boat." Let's see, they made the Free Steak Bowl for the movie. Costner was a legit high school player, I guess. He actually hit 2 home runs on camera while they were filming the movie. And he was an actual legitimate switch hitter. That wasn't any movie tricks or him just faking his best. He wears 8 in the movie because the costume designer found out Ron Shelton wore 8 in the minor leagues, so he gave Costner 8 for like Shelton. I told everybody, I'm going to tell you again, Long Gone, 1987, year before Bull Durham. I like it better than Bull Durham. It's so unbelievably funny, starring William Peterson, about a bunch of minor league jokers and a minor league team in the late 50s. Long Gone, and it's on YouTube in its entirety.
Okay.
Let's see. What did they say here? Okay, there's the real. Oh, if there's one scene where they have the stands kind of full, you see a lot of Dark Side of the Moon and Pink Floyd T-shirts. Apparently, there was a Pink Floyd concert that day, and Shelton sent somebody down there offering people a few bucks to come down and be extras. And so they're coming, and they came straight from the concert.
Wow.
Decked out in their Pink Floyd stuff. Sad news. Trey Wilson, the manager, 40. He's only 40 years old in Bull Durham, or when Bull Durham comes out. Doesn't look a day older than 53. But he actually died 7 months after the movie came out in the theater. So at least hopefully you got to see it. He was fantastic in it as a minor league manager. That was where Tim Robbins and Susan Sarandon met, still together. And I'm going to tell this one again just because I know. Were you here for the Paul Abdul story?
No.
Okay. Paul Abdul, apparently when Nuke's doing that goofy dance in the bar, they brought Paul Abdul in for a day to teach him the stupid dance. And apparently someone had told her she was going to get a couple lines in the movie. Ron Shelton was like, "No, you're not." She's like, "Thought she was promised." "Yeah, I am." And he's like, "They promised me." He's like, "Who's they? I didn't promise you, and I'm in charge. You're not talking in the movie." And apparently she just had a screaming freak out, stormed off. So Paul Abdul, Ron Shelton, would have been easier just to wink at the cameraman, have him pointed at her, now say this and make up a line, and then just, "All right, bye, Paul Abdul." And then I don't know, maybe
Make her happy.
Maybe they hope the freak out would be a good story for later. And I think, did I have any more? David Niedorf. Went through everybody. Yep. We'll tell you. I will finish real quick by telling you, like, Rod Shelton and Kevin Costner, I did this at the beginning, are absolutely, if you're looking for Mount Rushmore sports directors and actors, Are they clearly the best of the bunch? No, but are they absolutely in the discussion at the top of the heap? I would say so. Shelton directed Tin Cup. Well, in order: Bull Durham, White Men Can't Jump, and Tin Cup. He did Cobb. I don't think Cobb would go on Rushmore if he did that. And he had another one called Play It to the Bone. I never saw it and don't really know much about. Costner comes out of the gate with 4 movies I'd absolutely put on Mount Rushmore: the highly underrated American Flyers when he was young, Bull Durham, Tin Cup, For Love of the Game. Looks good as an athlete in all of them. Then it's sports movie retirement age. He becomes an NFL GM, and the ultimately like unbelievably silly but strangely enjoyable Draft Day.
I agree.
And then he becomes a track coach in what I thought was a really enjoyable movie, McFarland USA. So
I've not seen that one, but I just watched Draft Day, honestly, within the last probably 6-8 months.
It's good. It's fun.
I hate the Browns.
I don't know if you're middle linebacker size, but anything Chadwick Boseman was in, I'd watch it. Chadwick Boseman even did like one of my favorite shows of all time, if not the favorite. Raylan Givens, where he's the marshal, and I've got all my baseball stuff in my head, so I put out my just regular TV stuff. But anyway, he popped it. He had a cameo in that. I'll think of it. But anyway, that's about what I've got. Let's see. We got anybody chiming in comments. And geez, thanks guys for sticking around tonight.
Was it Justified?
Justified. I don't know. Yeah, maybe the best series of all time. It's definitely up for best final episode, final scene in a final episode of all time.
Well, when Minnie's not around, I'm allowed to Google things, so you're welcome.
You the man. Yeah, Aaron was doing that with me too. I got to get more people like to do that on their laptops. All right, let's see. Oh, speaking of cups, this is the kind of content I'm coming to expect from Jason Reeves. My very own grandfather taught me to flick my pitcher's nuts when leaving the mound just to get a dangerous juvenile out of his head. Man, I did the world you must live in. Let's see. Yeah, fresh off Johnny Be Good. Robbins pulled young dumbass off just fine. Jason's not a Susan fan either. He was besmirching her earlier in the show. Tim's cool. Susan still looks like she still smells funny. Still love her, but it is what it smells. Yeah, summer blockbuster fantasy movie. Yeah, we're getting near rookie quarterback time for sure there.
Jason and I have a lot in common. We both have we say nicer things about other people in Hollywood than Susan Sarandon, and we're both going to be celebrating a birthday this Friday night, live on 5 Heart Podcast, 9:00 Central.
Nice.
Decided we share a birthday. It's Friday, so yeah, that'll be a good time.
Get that plug in there.
Try to.
Well, throw my quick plug here. I put in today for my credentials for Big Ten Football Media Days. Going to be hopefully storming down there for the second year in a row. This year, hopefully, I won't feel like quite the interloper as I did last year. But I did have an enjoyable time last year. I got to throw a couple questions at Jeff Sims. I wish Jeff Sims nothing but the best. Off the field, he was everything you could want in a quarterback. Yeah, I'm not here to bitch about his on field, because off field that guy just carried himself, had charisma, carried himself with class. Just seemed like a really good guy. Got to ask Matt Rule a question, and Mitch Sherman ended up using his answer in his athletic article about B1G Media Days. Got to meet Tom Chattel, very, 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 very nice guy. Got to meet Mitch Sherman, talk to him a little, and actually introduced myself to Trev and talked to Trev for a bit, which probably doesn't carry as much coin as at this point in time than it did last summer. But
nope.
That's about all I've got. Greg, I hope your finger. Well, like I say, I'm just happy because it's all there.
Yeah.
Thanks for lumping in. I don't know what the boot was about. Did you cut your? You said something in there about I'm going to be booted up or something?
Oh, suited and booted. because I thought
booted.
I'd still be in my suit, but I changed.
Oh, okay. Because I heard booted. I'm like, I just said, are you gonna have like, yeah, just be bleeding, have like
No.
like your foot in a boot, and
No.
then like a finger missing, and just skin warts maybe hanging off your face. I didn't know what sort of abomination to expect coming through the door, but that's all I got. I really want to thank you for popping in. And
sorry I was late.
You had better things to do at the time, I think.
Work. So
yeah. Oh, well, hey, we get home when we get home.
That's right.
Bull Durham, everyone, thank you so much for coming in. We will be back next week. I'm going to try and get something out more than a day before, because I forgot if it was Highlander or Jason who the first week I was like, hey, here's the greatest question to lead it off. So are we watching the movie tonight, or are we supposed to have watched it all? So, and I think I said something and I forgot about it, scrambling around here a little, is somebody said, hey, could you let us know a few days early so we know our homework assignment? And I'm, that just makes sense. So I'll try to get something out like Friday or Saturday, so a few days before, and I'll try and pop in there, what streaming service is carrying it or whatever. And we got something coming in here. Oh, Battered Bastards of Baseball deserves another shout out.
Yeah, Jason Reeves says it's a Kurt Russell project on Netflix, and he says it's glorious.
Okay, so good. Definitely chime in. It's that's topical when we're doing this stuff. Not sure what I'm doing next week. I'm hopefully going to be putting together, try and get a little list of movies going so I can start asking people to be on their suit and everything. But it's like any other podcast of mine. It's going to get the more I do it, the better I'll get. I appreciate everybody coming in and watching tonight. Greg, thank you once again. And everybody, hopefully we see you back here next week, and hopefully no storms until then. I'm getting about stormed out here in Omaha. Everybody have a great week, great weekend, and we'll see you next Tuesday.